that was a nice way to enter.
Wasn't that nice? Wow, look at us, like all professional
Yes.
with our new format here. That is so
We used to
exciting.
start having just like in boxing matches, like some kind of entrance. Both of us, you can come from the door behind you and so on.
That's right.
I'll
Well,
I'll
welcome
come from the
everyone.
window.
We are super glad that you are with us today. Welcome. I am Stacey Gonzalez, and with my amazing, fabulous co-host, I always try to get your last name. Let's see if I get it
Yeah,
today.
let's just try it.
Nikki Vinogradov. I know I
Yeah,
do the like little.
no, that was really well. There's many different pronunciations to it. Yeah, it's
Yes.
really good. Were you going to still say something
Yeah,
or
go ahead.
no? That's really good to be here. Last one was so inspiring because people had good questions and were really engaged. So hopefully those of you are watching, listening about transition, which is something that doing it the right way and preparing for it is makes quite a difference in our lives. So it will be quite a session.
Yes. Yeah. So Ashok is here today. So happy. Thanks for the comment. Love you too. He said, love you guys. So thank you for being here. Well, we are excited. Nikki kicked us off. We're going to be talking about transitioning and mainly this idea of transitioning being a really big deal in our lives, whether it's a job transition, a move, a life transition, right? My daughter is going to be going to college soon. That's going to be a transition for our family. And so we're going to be talking about that in particular today and kind of the steps around that. And then in about 10, 15 minutes, we've got a special guest that we're going to bring in who's going to share with us. She's made a transition in her life, and she also has some insights to share relative to the meditation piece, because at the end of our conversation, Nikki leads a guided meditation, which is I'll speak for myself, has been life-changing and transforming. And so as we think about transitioning, what does meditation do? It helps our mind be clear so that we can make informed decisions from a really stable place. So drop your comments, your questions in. We're here to answer questions that you have. We're here for you. That's why we show up every week on Thursdays at 8:00. So Nikki, let's start. How have you been thinking this week, knowing our topic is about transition, and what's kind of stuck out to you?
Well, I've been reflecting a little bit of my own transition, the really big ones there's probably many, but in the past 10 years, I had 3 really big transitions. And looking back, I would hope that I would have understood what happens in transition, what are the stages of it. I wish I would have understood them better, though at least I learned in those processes. And I think why it is such an important topic is to transcend something, to transform. It means that we go beyond something that is in the present. How our present form is, or our limitations, and why it is so significant stage or moment in our life is if we don't do it well, if we step back from it, then we will not go where we will grow more and feel more fulfilled, but we'll actually step back, and it will become more difficult in the future to transcend or transform or make the transition, because if we once stepped back from it, then it's a lot less likely that we'll do it again. And there's many things we can understand and prepare for ourselves, so that transition from something, whatever it is, in some way, it is always a life transition, no matter what it is,
That's right.
what's happening. So
Yeah,
that's why I think it is.
that's a good point. I think we're transitioning all the time, right? Even when you leave your house and go from your home to a restaurant, or right, you're in the midst, we're always in the midst of movement. I think the thing that is significant is human beings really like consistency and patterns and repetition. And so I know for me, one of the things that was really hard for me as I transitioned out of, and Nikki, you and I have talked about this, is when I transitioned out of my career for 20 years, I spent driving, going to a building, having these certain people, kind of knowing what the expectations are. When you decide to make a significant transition that moves you out of what is kind of in your routine and patterns, making that transition from a really clear place, making that decision on a from a non-emotional place, helps you think through how you're going to process through that transition in a way that really allows you to not have it be so hard. And I think for me, I've learned that I'm not great at making big transitions. I tend to be a little I'm better now, but I tend to get to a point where it's so bad that I go through this emotional things that make me then be like, oh my gosh, I need to change something. And then it becomes this big transition where maybe had I had some clarity first, I would have been able to make that transition a little smoother.
I think you good that you are a little smoother, because I don't know if it's possible to not have the big because you mentioned about familiar things and routines and patterns, and that is the thing that the big uncertainty in transition is that are on the level of who I am and who I'm used to be, how I'm used to seeing myself, and then was the environment that confirms who I am shifts, and that's no longer there, and that our answer to the question, like, kind of who am I, is where our mental health and mental stability kind of needs that stability. And when we make this transition, we cannot stand on it because we are going somewhere else. And that's why the clarity, I think, what does the clarity need to be about is our core values, who we want to become. I think when it becomes future oriented, that's who I want to be. These are my deepest values. I'm living from them. Then we have this stability and mental stability, not against the emotions, but they help us get through the emotions. And when I'm talking about values, I'm not talking about family or work or anything, because those are not values. Those are where we would want to experience and manifest the values. But values are a lot deeper. They are things that we consider truly important about life. For example, if family was a value, and I'm soon tying this into what does this have to do with transition. If, for example, family was a value, then it wouldn't matter what kind of family we have, and we would feel at ease, because just having a family would be important. But when you start asking people, okay, what's important about family, then you start hearing what are the real values. Somebody will say growth, somebody will say love, somebody will say connection. And then when we live from those values, meaning that we really, okay, let me get in touch with this feeling of growth or peace. Okay, in this transition, how would I make it happen? What would I do in this transition from this feeling? And that's exactly, I think, the clarity part is that the mistake that people make in this, that they define the values in this transition, and then they think, okay, if those are my values, what can I do now to find them? Like, what now to do in the transition to find them? And that's a mistake, because then we will very unlikely experience mental stability and the peace in the process. And it comes from an assumption that my deep values are somewhere else.
So are you saying that a value could be, I don't know, I'll take one of mine, like communication. Communication is a value I have. But I'm searching for something that meets that value versus understanding how to live from that value in order to put me in the right possibilities or the right opportunities. Is that kind of, do I have that right?
Well, this is just how I understand it. Communication is strategy to live that value, because communication is what we are doing and how we are doing things. So the value would be, why is it important? What is important to you about communication? That would be that. And why I'm saying these things is that allows us to have the mental stability in the transition, because when we go in the uncertainty, and let's say we go from 9 to 5, which I absolutely don't think there's anything wrong with 9 to 5. It's equally good as anything else. When we go from regular 9 to 5 to building something of our own, or go to completely new 9 to 5, new industry, there is that stage in between that is very, very uncomfortable, because
Yes.
we have kind of we cannot, when we are in a familiar situation, we can always like kind of like, this is who I am, and that relaxes us because we have some mental center. But that's not in the transition. We don't have it unless we have those values that we kind of can express, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And we are like this, Mr. Cezanne says, we are always looking for this mathematical formula, this perfect formula. And I think you and
Mm.
I both, as we work with clients, we kind
Mm.
of take the approach that the formula is already inside of you.
Mm.
And it is helping others discover and uncover
Mm.
what works for them. But it's a very different way of thinking. I was just listening to when you did the this morning. I was listening to our workshop, the
Mm.
emotions, the energized or emotion
Mm.
wizard workshop
Mm.
3. And I think there's something in right, our values and emotions are closely aligned. And so
Yes.
we have these deep-seated beliefs, many times that are aligned with our values, but come with these strong feelings or senses. And so it's figuring out that way to really transform and charge, for at least for me, who I'm a real feeler. Like I have really strong emotions.
Mm.
And so figuring out how to transform those emotions in a way that really work for me.
Mm.
For example, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. I was a little nervous and I could feel like I wasn't fully myself. I think I was pretty authentically me. I was the
Mm.
best I could be in that moment. But upon reflection, I was like, oh, there were just things that and it had to do with transitioning. It was an interview. And so like that was like, as I stepped back and reflected, like, what could I have done differently? Or how did I show up? Did I show up fully me in that
Mm.
moment? Kind of like what you're sharing there.
Yeah. Yes. And exactly like you said, the formula is inside. And maybe my own example, that I am not coached in order to live my values.
Oh, oh no, I lost you. Oh, okay. So we'll wait. He'll jump back in. So what's great about this today is we have another person that we're gonna bring up onto the stage. Her name is Jaslyn. She was with us last week and during our time. And so she has made a successful career transition out of the classroom and into a tech role. So we're going to ask her about her experience. And then she's going to share a little bit about some mindfulness and meditation. She's got some questions around that. So welcome, Jaslyn.
Hi, Stacy.
Hey, we lost Nikki, but I'm guessing he'll pop back in a minute. If not, we've got the two of us. So here we
Okay.
are. Yeah. Yeah. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to kind of chat with me a little bit. Why don't we start off? Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what your transition experience was like.
Yeah, so I'm Jaslyn, and I transitioned last year from education into a tech role at BrainPop. I'm an educational content writer now, so I get to do what I love to do in the classroom. I actually get to do that for the millions of people that use our product at BrainPop, which is actually quite amazing. And I still kind of pinch myself sometimes when I think about the
So
impact that I get to make for students and teachers and their families. So it's quite fun.
well, and what did you find was the most surprising during that, like, let me ask it like this. What was the moment that, if you can, or about that you decided, like, it's time for me to make a change?
Well, I probably decided before the pandemic that I was going to make a change. I just didn't know what that change was going to be. I had a lot of things that I was interested in. I actually did some things before I started teaching. I have a forensic science degree, and I knew I loved science. Originally, I thought I wanted to be a pathologist, And then I realized that they mostly worked in a lab and
Mm.
did not talk to a lot of people. So I was
Mhm.
like, that's probably not going to be it for me. And so I kind of, when I left college, was exploring different things, and a lot of the things that I did dealt around communicating with people. And so I really felt like that was huge for me. Like I really needed to be able to talk to people in some type of way, collaborate, interact with people. And so in the jobs that I had, I really just enjoyed the interaction piece. I
Mm.
loved working with students. I loved helping them to solve problems. I love working with families. And so I started off doing like social work. And then I was the director of an after school program. So I was still, directly impacting students. And then I became a teacher. And once I became a
Mm.
teacher, I was like, "Oh, I love this. I love this." But I knew that there was like more that I wanted to do. And so probably right before the pandemic, I kind of decided, maybe I should do something different. I just
Mm.
didn't know what that different was yet.
Mm.
And so I took a year to continue teaching and just like think about other options. I would just kind of look and see what was out there. Um, just kind of getting my feet wet, trying to figure out what interests me. And then when the pandemic hit, I had a lot of things happen at one time, and so it was just very stressful. And I decided I was like, well, maybe I, want to keep teaching for one more year because as big pandemic hit, there are going to be a lot of kids that need stuff, a lot of families that need stuff. And so I said, well, let me keep doing it one more year. And last year was just so stressful. And I saw
Mhm.
it impacting my family in ways that I didn't want it to
Mm.
impact them. I have a 7-year-old, and so she would be like, "Mom, you're never at home. Like you're always working." And that's kind of hard when you hear your child say that. And so I decided, okay, let me start looking into what else I can do. Um, and that's kind of what led me on my journey to think about something else outside of the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know you're certainly, you and I, we've had this conversation, um, are not alone in that, in our desire to shift out of education and into new roles and new ways. Especially, I think, aside from even teachers in general, like the pandemic showed many people. Nikki and I were earlier talking about values, and we have our values, we know our values. I think we had an opportunity in the pandemic to reconfirm or reignite, reengage maybe with our values, like you shared, like,
Yes.
being family. We were talking earlier, like family isn't the value, it's engaging with your family, or it's the way you show up with your family, or the interactions that you wanted to have with your daughter. And so, people have various reasons. I would say, for me, my transition was, it was more a matter of, um, uh, what would be the word? Um, I, this is going to sound dramatic, and I don't mean this in a dramatic way. It for me. I think it was a matter of life or death, literally. I think I probably, had I had the clarity, which is why we do this show and why we talk about having a clear mind to open possibilities. Had I had the clarity to be able to step back and say, okay, this isn't working, a year before, like you said, you took a year, you had that year. Had I been able to do that in a way that was a little more strategic, maybe wouldn't have had to go through some of the mental and emotional struggles that I was facing. Um, Now, I say all that to say I would never take it back. It has given me such a profound respect for myself and for others in new ways. When we were talking about, what does it mean to put yourself first? What does that really mean to put yourself first? It's a very different thing for many people, but for teachers in particular, we are very used to, in this helping, assisting, caretaking role, it's very easy to put everybody else before ourselves. I think that's
Oh,
what you were sharing
absolutely.
yesterday.
Absolutely. I think even for me, like I had you know, a sense of just mental breakdown and just I was exhausted. I was trying to balance so many different things. I was telling my husband the other day and one of my friends that my priorities were so different a year ago.
Mm,
And it wasn't that the priority was different, it was just the time that I was given to certain things. I think that work was at the top because I felt like it had the biggest need. Like I was servicing so many people. I was also a team leader, so I wanted to make sure my team was good. And that's just part of my personality. Like I always like to make sure the people around me are good and I like to support them as much as I can. Um, and so I felt like so much was going there that I didn't have as much time to give for my family or my friends. And myself was definitely at the bottom. I was like the last person I would service. I would think about when I would get home and I had been at work for 12 hours a day with no break, it was constant go, go, go. And then it was like, all right, now your daughter needs you. Now your husband needs you. And when I would get into bed, it was like, I just wanted to, look at something on my phone or watch TV for 30 minutes, but I was like sacrificing sleep because it was like
mhm,
I was trying to pull that me time that I wasn't getting throughout the day. And so now I feel like a year later, like I've completely flipped that where me is on the top. And it's just kind of amazing how putting yourself first just allows you to give more time to people that are really important to you. Um,
mm,
and so and
mhm,
it's effortless, like, just
mm,
putting me first
mhm,
allowed me to be more present as a mom, more present as a wife, and it's not something that I have to think about now, it's I mean, it just happens, it's effortless, and so, that was really life-changing for me when I was able to make that shift and say, "Look, I really just have to be selfish right now and put myself first and put what I need first,"
mm,
and so it is, I mean, probably one of the biggest challenges, like you said, especially if you're in like a serving role, like an educator or like social services. I even think about police officers, like, they're constantly serving other people. We're used to giving back and we're used to putting everybody first. But, there is a time where we have to think about when when will we be able to put ourselves first? And I
mm.
think when you make that shift in your mind, like, everything else just falls into place. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of like I was thinking this morning about a closet. I clean my closet maybe once, twice a year, like a deep clean, get rid of stuff that, if I haven't worn it, whatever. And it's a little bit like that where when you're in this state, especially with, I think, what is a work, like people say work life balance. I don't know if that's actually the right terminology, but when you're at a place where you're in this work that is no longer serving you, it's time for a change. Um, it feels at times like your closet. You walk in and you look, and it's this closet that is just a mess, and there's great stuff in there. Like I have my awesome $150 pair of suede boots, right? But I can't find them because there's stuff that I've just thrown in from the other boots, or a sweatshirt there, or my pajamas that, I whipped over there, whatever it is. And so it's the metaphor I come up with, and we're going to talk a little bit about meditation and mindfulness, is that what I've noticed for me is by starting to use these mindfulness practices helps me metaphorically clear out that closet so I can really see, what do I want to keep in here and what do I need to take out, and what do I need to get rid of, so then I can make a really informed decision. And in that transition process, especially like you and I know, working with people who are trying to transition, and we've talked about this a lot with teachers, there's a high level of stress and anxiety. And when you're operating from that place, you're operating from a really messy closet, and
oh, absolutely.
you can't grab the cute boots and the cute sweater because you can't find it when you need it. because it's all misconjumbled in there. I don't know if that's a word, right? But it's all jumbled in there. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You definitely have to take a step back. I think, the one thing that I like to tell people, especially when they ask about my transition, is I spend a lot of time like some teachers now, you're just ready to do something else. You might not know what that is. You might see a job or you might see a position and you're like, I'm just gonna apply for it. And it's just a bunch of different things out there because they might interest you. And that's cool because as teachers, we have so many great things about us. We're able to do so many different things
Mhm.
and we're good at it. And it's really because you're almost forced to be when you're teaching because you have to wear so many hats. But my best times came from when I did some self-reflection first.
Mm.
I sat down and thought to myself, well, yeah, I might be good at these 50 things, but what is it that I really like to do? Not what am I just good at? What do I actually like to do? What actually makes me happy? When I go into my school building, what is the thing that I just enjoy the most? Where am I smiling the most?
Mm.
And even outside of the building, what are the things that I enjoy in life? Because those are the same things that I wanted in a new career. I wanted to be able to take the things that I love, not just with teaching, but just in life in general, and transform that into a new
Mhm.
setting. And I couldn't really see clearly
Mm.
until I forced myself to do that. And so you spend a lot of time, and this could go for anybody transitioning. You spend a lot of time thinking about um, different jobs and different opportunities out there. And it is great because there's endless opportunities. I like to say that, especially coming out of education, where everything is so limited, it's like your eyes are wide open to all these things. But if you don't like sit down and reflect first on the things that you actually enjoy, it's gonna be hard to find a new job at a new setting that you actually enjoy. And that was something that was very, very motivating for me. Like I really wanted to find something that I could wake up and smile about every day and be excited doing every day. And
Mm.
it's more than just what am I good at?
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm good at a lot of things, but it doesn't mean that I love all of those things. And that really helped me make some big decisions about what roles I wanted to apply to and what I wanted to invest my time in. And um, I know a lot of jobs give performance tasks, and it's like, well, if I'm not 100% sure about the job, why would I want to complete a performance task? Let me not waste my time.
That's right.
When you like really take a step back and you clear your mind and you start to focus in on the things that you really love and you are searching for that, you won't mind, some of the things that you have to do in order to get the job, whether it's 3 interviews and a performance task, you'll be saying yes because I love this. And so I think that's really, really important so that you don't waste your time.
Yeah, great point. And knowing what that's one of the things that we talk about, knowing what you're good at and knowing how to communicate that, how to tell your story in a way that is authentic to who you are and in a way that helps others see who you are. I swear I was talking to somebody yesterday and this blew my mind, a recruiter with a company, and he said to me, um, I asked him, I said, I don't remember what I asked about like the interviewing process or something. And he said, I interview or hire or whatever based on personality. Like straight out. You don't hear like in our, especially in education, I never heard that, right? It's what do you know and how do you know it? And can you do this? And can you do that? And can you do that? Especially when you're moving into new roles, hold that for yourself. Be you, being able to fully be you in that transition and show up as you, because as you make that move for whatever your reasons are for what ultimately is going to enhance your life, you want to fully be you in that transition so that when you are done with the transition and you're in that new spot, you are you in the way that you want to show up. Like you said, the things that make you happy, the things you enjoy. When you were talking, I could imagine you seeing yourself. This is a great exercise that many, is a great mindfulness technique. Just sitting and visualizing, you said walking through the halls and seeing where you're smiling and seeing where I was talking to somebody yesterday and I put my hand on my heart like this, and he noticed and he said, when you said that, you put your hand right here and it was important to you. So if you can see yourself from outside yourself, that's a good first step to really knowing, like, if you're not sure, what is it you really love, or what is it, and you're not sure where to start there by, like, at the end of your day, reflecting on your day. What were the moments that were really important to me, where I was really like fully me, and it was meaningful, and I was happy, and that it was natural. And then being able to then articulate that and then look for a job or a career in alignment with that.
Yes, because I feel like, when you're able to articulate that yourself, that shows that then transfers to your resume. It transfers to a cover letter. It brings those things to life when somebody's reading it. If you don't have that first, it's kind of really hard to show, your personality through a resume. And I think of, the whole process is truly about marketing yourself.
Mhm.
And
You're a salesperson. You're a
yeah, you're
salesperson.
a salesperson. And,
That's right.
if you think about teachers, we do it every day.
Mhm.
We constantly are selling things to students. We have some students that don't want to buy what we're selling, and we have to figure out how to make it happen. And so you have to use that same thought process when you're trying to look for a new role.
Mm.
You're
That's right.
selling yourself, you're marketing yourself. But how do you want to market yourself? And so that takes time, that takes reflection. You can't just jump into it and say, well, I'm just going to type up a resume really fast and send it off. Because, yeah, it may work sometimes, but is it going to get you what you really want? And so that's really important that you said that. You have to kind of take time to pause and reflect before moving forward.
Yeah. So, I guess I'm gonna lead the meditation today for us. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit. We do a guided meditation each week. Nikki usually leads it, but he dropped off, so here I am. We'll flow today. Um,
Okay.
can you talk a little bit about, though, what your experience was like from last week? Because that not surprised me, like, just surprised me because that came forward. So could you share a little bit about what you kind of discovered after last week's meditation, or what happened?
Yeah. So I, have tried to meditate before. I've also tried, just kind of sitting in silence and allowing myself to just kind of hear my thoughts and think about certain questions to try to get some clarity. But I feel like I wasn't as successful as when I did it with y'all. Like I was telling you, I don't know what it was, but
Mm.
it was like I was in this session and I just was like, no, like you're going to do this seriously. You're going to really focus in on what's being said. And I grabbed my computer and I went into the closet, like a space where I just was like,
Mhm.
nobody's around me. I can like sit down. I can think clearly.
Mm.
And I really honed in on what was being said. And I allowed myself to like truly feel, what was being said and hear my own thoughts. And it was, to me, it was totally different than other types of meditation that I've tried. And I think really because I allowed myself to kind of let go,
Mm.
just flow with whatever I was experiencing. And I think that's really important. Like you really have to just kind of allow yourself to be in that moment for it to really transform you and work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really good point. A couple of things, right? When we meditate, it is our experience. Whatever happens during your meditation time is valid. There's no good or bad. There's no positive, negative, right or wrong. It simply is an opportunity to increase your awareness of kind of what's happening I kind of look at it. There's parts where you kind of can see more clearly what's happening in your brain I'm watching this professor who has a 51 lecture series on meaning. And so he uses this example a lot. And I love this example. When we put on our glasses, right? Many times I'm just looking through my glasses at you or at whatever I'm looking at. And I'm not even noticing the glasses of themselves. They're there, they're functioning for me. They're serving a purpose. Our thoughts serve a purpose for our lives. We need thoughts to function in the world. They're not good or bad. They help us live in this human experience. But there are times when I need to take my glasses off and I'm looking at my glasses. And I'm like, oh, there's a spot. I need to clean them here. There's a spot there. And I'm looking at my glasses from a different perspective. And what I've found for me is that meditation allows us to take off our glasses, stop looking through our brain and just using all these thoughts to function in the world, but actually stop, clear some space to say, what is happening in there? And what am I now becoming a little more aware of? Oh, I have this thought about my laundry. Okay, don't need to deal with that right now. Let's just put that to the side and get back focused on the breath or the vision, if we're doing visualization or whatever. So I like to kind of set us up before we move into the meditation portion of that. Do you have other questions that you're thinking about when it comes to meditation or mindfulness?
I think one good thing, that I thought about when I left the session last week was like, how could I just implement this on my
Mhm.
own, without
Mhm.
anybody guiding me? Um, what could I do, if
Yes.
I'm just by myself and I have 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes? What could I do to actually start to implement this?
Yes. That's a great question. Um, so I'm not going to answer that per se, like what you should do. I'll share a little bit about my journey to that point. What I've found for me is that I don't pressure myself. Like for me, pressure become if I put something like I'm going to do this every day at this time in this way. When I set that up for me, and then I miss a Monday or whatever happens, I then am like, oh, I messed it all up, right? Kind of like if you know somebody who tries to exercise and then they. So for me, it is being very open with yourself and just coming up, like you said, I started with the Calm app. I used it had 10-minute meditations. And I just started there and I'd use it sporadically here or there. So that was helpful because it exposed me to different people who provide different meditation, so different types of meditation. And it also was in my pocket, right? Like easily in my pocket, I could go and meditate. Um, I also think trusting yourself. So if you have, like you said, like, how do I do it without somebody guiding me or not guiding me or whatever? Um, Trusting yourself and trusting your experience, whether it's you can sit quietly and not move. For me, that's a big one. Sit focused up straight for 5 minutes and not move and not judge what happened. And maybe, I'll start today. I'm thinking about how we'll start with the focus on the breath. And just if I just focused on my breath for the best I could for 5 minutes, quietly sitting in an upright. You want to be in an upright, aligned position, because if you're not, the tendency could be to be in this state of dullness, which then your mind becomes sleepy. So you go into potentially a sleepy, drowsy state. So that's one of the reasons why you want to be, you're fully aware. You're not drowsy, you're not sleepy, but you're in a really aware state. So that helps. But if you need a tool, use a tool to help you, enhance your practice. And it's a practice. It's a continual practice because, like you shared, sometimes you have these amazing experiences that you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And then you're trying to go back to that. You want that special thing and you can't, that's not how necessarily it works. So allowing yourself that space. So I'm going to set my timer. We're going to go for 20 minutes. We'll do a 20-minute. I'll guide us through a meditation. We're going to just get comfortable in your chair. You can close your eyes. Jess, do you want to stay on stage with me?
No, I'll hop back off
Okay.
stage.
Okay, let me get you. Let me get you down. Okay, thank you. Let me say this. Thank you so much for being here. People can connect on with you via LinkedIn,
Yes.
certainly. And you have a community for educators, and I know we support each other in that way. So connect with Jazz.
Yes.
Thanks, Jazz.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna get started. So go ahead and get your feet comfortably on the floor. Align your back. You can close your eyes and simply take a deep breath in and hold, and then slowly release your breath. We're going to do that a few times. If you need to shift or adjust your body to get comfortable, that's fine. Allow yourself to kind of get settled in. Take another deep breath in and hold. And as you begin to release the breath, see how slow, what is the slowest amount of breathing you can do as you are releasing. So really focusing on that releasing of breath in a very slow, steady, constant manner. Go ahead and do a couple more breaths in that way. It might make a sound as it's coming out, and that's perfectly fine. Whatever is happening in your experience is perfectly fine. It's your experience. And now bring the attention or your awareness to the tip of your nose. So, right at the tip of your nose, where your breath is entering and exiting your nostrils. I'm really noticing how it feels. And if thoughts pop in your head, it's okay. You can think them, notice them, and let them go. There's no need to judge them. There's no need to do anything with them. Simply allow them to be. And then you return your focus to the breath. And so, as you are focused on the breath, really feeling a very calm, centered sense. Now, noticing in your heart, solar plexus, or heart center area, a red, glowing ball of energy that's sparkly and bright. And just kind of seeing that right in the middle of where your heart and chest, kind of where your lungs have a little divot there, right in that area between the middle of your chest. And allowing that heat from that warm, glowing red energy to expand into your body. So it's slowly kind of opening in a greater way and expanding out. And the electric flame-like energy is warming through your whole chest, into your throat, your shoulders, going down your arms into your stomach and hips, and filling your legs, filling your head, so that your entire body is filled with this warm, red, fiery, glowy energy. And now in front of you appears a staircase. And so you see this staircase in front of you. And you don't have to see it perfectly. You don't have to make it out, but you sense it. You sense in your mind's eye a staircase that is in front of you. And you're looking at it. And what do you notice about that staircase? How does that staircase feel to you? Maybe it has a color. Maybe it has a texture. Maybe you can touch it and see what it's made out of. Maybe it's made of stone or wood or something else entirely, glass, water even. And so now you are going to step on that first stair. And that first stair, there are things on that stair that you have sensed inside of you and you know are there, but you've not really been able to articulate fully, or you've not really taken a moment to explore or examine these things that are inside of you, that are a part of you that you deeply know, but maybe haven't accessed in a while or ever. And so as you're on that stair, notice what comes to you. Notice what this is for you that is only for you to right now be able to see. Maybe a desire, it may be a word, it may be a person, it may be a sense, a feeling, something that is just under the surface, not fully in your awareness, but is beginning to take shape. So I want you to take that and hold it in your hands, whatever it is for you. Hold that in your hands. And when you look at it in your hands, it has a bluish tint or glow to it. We're going to hold that as we step up into the second stair. So when you're ready, go ahead and step up to to the second stair. And now take a look at this thing, this object, this sense that is in your hands. And really allow it to take shape in front of you. Allow it to transform into a little more material, a little more clarity, a little more definition. What does it look like? How does it feel in your hands? What do you notice differently about it now that you're on the second stair versus what you saw, what it looked like on the first stair? And remember, there's no wrong or right, good or bad. This is your experience, and everything in your experience is valid. It is not to be judged. It is simply to be noticed. So as you're looking at this sense or object or whatever it is that you're holding in your hands, what really part of it? There's a part that you want to, that you kind of just sense and you want to explore a little deeper. You want to expand upon, hone in on that area, and allow yourself to be curious about that and see where that part is going to take you as you get ready to move to the third stair. So now, as you are moving up to that third step, this is really where you are able to now make and bring a very clear image of what you're holding in your hands. And so, right now, you see it clear. You're fully aware. It's fully clear. You know exactly what you need to know about this part of you. You see it in full panoramic 3D definition, as if it is fully your full experience, all of your senses. You know what it feels like, you know what it looks like, you know what it smells like. You really are able to have great clarity about what this is for you. Great sense of confidence, a great sense of security, a great deep, deep sense of knowing on this third stair. So as you stand on that third stair, I want you to look back down at stair 2 and stair 1 to remember how much clarity you now have. To just take note of what you're holding in your hand and how that has shaped and evolved and transformed for you. And so as you then turn around and you look to what will be the final stair, the fourth stair that you're going to step onto, you see yourself fully confident, fully capable, fully aware and ready to take whatever is in your hands and in your heart with you to that fourth stair, where you will be able to share that. So when you're ready, go ahead and step up to the fourth stair. And now appears in front of you another either person or people that this, what you have, will benefit. That this thing that you have been, whatever this is that you've been carrying and bringing with you up these stairs, this will benefit these others, whoever these others are for you. You may see a specific person, you may not see the faces of it may be a group of people. It's going to look different for each of you. As you look at them, notice how they embrace this. Notice how they almost long. There's a longing for what you have to give. And see their faces as they receive. So you can determine how you want to hand this over or allow them to have a part of this that you're carrying. And the impact and the amazing opportunities that this will afford to them. As you stand and you look out from a very high point of great awareness, of a very centered, a very secure, a very confident place that you're standing right now. And I want you to look at yourself as you are in this space on that top stair, and notice your eyes and your mouth and your stance, your confidence, your ability, your clarity. And so as we begin to allow this moment to dissolve, the others around us, that which is the staircase, the other parts begin to dissolve around us. And we are going to hold on to that image, allowing it to guide us, remembering that moment of who we are, how we have these amazing talents and gifts to give to others. So when you're ready, you can take a few breaths, move, and come back to the present moment where we are here. So thank you for those of you who were with us today. Really appreciated the time to be able to, share from the heart. And we look forward, hopefully Nikki will be here again next week, but I appreciate each and every one of you here to help in any way that I can. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and have a lovely, wonderful rest of your day.